Welcome to Community Update. I'm Tom Handel.
And I'm Beth Allen. This week we'll hear the story of a map that gave America its name.
And we'll learn about some new pedestrian-friendly crosswalks in Portland.
We'll also get an update on the Jetport's expansion project.
All that and more brought to you by CTN, your local community television station, and WMPG Radio right now on Community Update.
Time is running out to get in on Our Exchange Portland's online auction. This year they have over $25,000 worth of items ranging from gift certificates to event tickets to handmade crafts. Bids will be accepted until 8 p.m. on December 14th. There are over 300 active bidders, so get yours in now by going to biddingforgood.com/HEP. The University of Southern Maine's Osher Map Library recently presented a lecture about the first world map printed in 1507 to use the name America. Tom talked with the author of a new book about the map.
Before Toby Lester became an editor and writer for the Atlantic Monthly, he traveled the world working for the Peace Corps and the United Nations. When the Atlantic Monthly moved from Boston to Washington, D.C., he decided to stay in Boston and write a book about a map of the world. This was not just any world map, but the first to include the name America and identify it as separate from any other continent.
The Library of Congress bought the map for $10 million. I'd never heard of the map, but that $10 million was by far the most money the Library of Congress had ever spent on anything. It was also about $2 million more than had been paid not long before that for an original printed copy of the Declaration of Independence. It seemed kind of amazing to me that such a historical treasure was something I didn't know anything about. The Library of Congress calls it America's birth certificate, and there's something to that. Before I knew it, I got sucked in and realized that there's much, much more to this map than the naming of America or even its depiction of the New World. It's a real historical window onto all sorts of things, culture and politics and ideas. And before I knew it, I was into the project 400 or 500 pages. Columbus obviously sailed across the Atlantic in 1492 and found land on the other side, but he thought he'd reached the Far East. Amerigo Vespucci, who people learn about in school, also made that same transatlantic journey a few years later, at least a couple of times. And he sailed south and discovered that there was land stretching south well below the equator that wasn't on anybody's maps. Columbus thought he was finding land that was on people's maps. Vespucci still thought it was Asia, but it was new Asia that wasn't on anybody's maps. He wrote letters home saying there's this giant new southern place that we don't know about. And word of what he had discovered got published and disseminated all around Europe. It made it to a little mountain town in eastern France where there were some map makers working on an atlas. And they decided, for reasons that are kind of mysterious, that this wasn't a part of Asia, but actually was an entirely new part of the world. People traditionally divided the world up into Europe, Asia, and Africa. Here was a new part, so they wanted to call it the fourth part of the world, hence the title of my book. And because Vespucci had been the one they believed who had discovered it, they decided to name it after him. So that's the basic story. It gets more complicated and interesting than that, but it takes many hundreds of pages to develop it fully. They actually had a lot of fun with the name as a kind of pun. One of the guys who named America knew ancient Greek and found that he could play with ancient Greek in the name to have it mean land of Amerigo. And then once he had the Greek version of the name, he Latinized it into Americus, and then because continents tended to be named after women, he feminized it so that it was named America. It's the first map to show the New World surrounded by water, so to unambiguously portray what we now know to be true, that it is in fact an entirely new part of the world. Most maps of the time either showed the New World as definitely a part of Asia or as some kind of undefined place that was probably a part of Asia. And they tended to run it into the border of the map, so you didn't have to make a clear statement about what this new place was. Because it was the first to show the New World surrounded by water, it's the first to suggest the existence of the Pacific. And it does these things in 1507, when Europeans, according to the history books, aren't supposed to have even caught sight of the Pacific until 1513. And Magellan didn't sail around South America and confirm it for another 7 years or so. So these guys got it right well before any European is supposed to have known what this place was. Even beyond the depiction of the New World and its depiction of the Pacific is the fact that this map is one of the very first printed maps ever made to show a full 360 degrees of longitude. And that's a kind of a very powerful development, not only in the history of cartography, but in the history of ideas. I would say that this map kind of launches the 500-year reign of the printed world map as we know it today. Before this world map, if you mentioned the phrase world map to 10 different people, they'd probably summon up 10 pretty different pictures of the world. In the decades following this map, you really start to get a uniform idea of what the world is.
When the map was first made in the early 1500s, there were 1,000 copies made.
But they all pretty quickly vanished, in part just because they were torn down, they degraded. It was a relatively inexpensively made map, and in part because maps of the world were getting so much better as the discoveries in the New World were taking place. So by the end of the 1500s, this map was forgotten. And that was the case for hundreds of years until 1901, when a Jesuit priest looking for another map in a castle in southern Germany found it. It's a great story. And almost immediately, he produced this facsimile, which in turn got lots of Americans interested in buying the map for obvious reasons. But then World War I and World War II came, and it really was only at the end of the 20th century that the Library of Congress decided that it wanted to buy the map and began to make overtures to the German prince who still owned the map and to the German government because they had classified it as a national treasure. And then it involved some fairly high-level negotiating to make the sale happen. And the Congress appropriated $5 million, and the Library of Congress raised another $5 million and bought it for $10 million in 2003. It's framed the same way that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution are framed, in a bulletproof case that is anaerobic inside. There's no oxygen, so that the map itself can't degrade. The frame itself, I would guess, probably cost about $1 million. I'm sure it's the most expensive picture frame in the world.
Toby pointed out a number of other unique features of the map.
Africa, for example, the reason that it's rammed through the frame at the bottom of the map is because only a decade before had Europeans discovered that they could actually sail around the southern tip of Africa and make their way through the Indian Ocean and over to India. For a century, they'd been trying to do that, to bypass Islamic territories in the Middle East and to get to the spices and gold from the Far East. So this map is actually one of the very first printed maps ever to broadcast to Europe that, in fact, you can sail around Africa, and here's what Africa looks like. When you get into the Far East, you've got all sorts of information embedded in the map about earlier journeys. And that's one of the really fun things about the map that I tried to spend a lot of time in the book. Anywhere you bore in on the map, you find all sorts of places and stories and references. What I discovered in studying this map and in writing the book was that it just has story after story after story to tell, much more than just the story of the naming of America. You get history books, and history books march you through history, and occasionally they show you a little map. Then you have coffee table books that show you maps with captions. But there's something in between that's really important, and that's to have a book that puts maps front and center in the way that a lot of these explorers and thinkers themselves put maps front and center. These people were being guided by these pictures of the world to a surprising degree, not only in their explorations, but in their kind of philosophical and theological understanding of existence.
The Fourth Part of the World by Toby Lester is available in bookstores in both hardcover and paperback. This is Tom Handel for Community Update.
On Saturday, December 18th, Woodford's Family Services will celebrate the season with a holiday bash for adults 21 and over with special needs. The event will be held from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Mission Possible building in Westbrook. A highlight of the evening will be an ugly holiday sweater contest, so be sure to dress in your holiday best. For more information, contact Jessica Platinitis at jplatinitis@woodfords.org. Or you can call them at 878-9663, extension 4102. Woodford's Family Services has been providing community-based services to individuals with special needs for more than 40 years. The agency offers a wide array of family support and educational services in southern, central, and mid-coast Maine, including an extensive online resource library. For more information, go to woodfords.org.
Residents of South Portland with overdue library books have one more week to take advantage of the city's amnesty program. Tardy readers can have their fines waived in exchange for donations of non-perishable food items that will go to the South Portland Food Cupboard. So you can help yourself and help others too. The amnesty program ends on December 19th. For more details, go to southportlandlibrary.com. There was a blizzard in Portland last Wednesday, at least in Payson Park. That's when city officials unveiled improvements made to Payson Hill for a new skiing and snowboarding program that will start in January. Volunteers began making snow in preparation for the Wednesdays in the Park project that's designed to encourage participation and access to winter sports for Portland youth. For 7 weeks, starting January 5th, young people will be able to get tips from ski and snowboard professionals from main ski areas. Expert advice will be available from 1 to 3 p.m. and the Ski Maine Association will sponsor weekly giveaways for the snow sport fans. Several local businesses will be sponsoring snowmaking at the park, and the trails will be groomed by workers from Portland Recreation. Ice skating and snowshoeing will also be available at Payson Park this season. For more information, check out the city's website, portlandmaine.gov.
The Maine Heritage Policy Center invites you to join them on December 16th at noon for a luncheon featuring former State Senator Carol Weston. Senator Weston will present Thoughts from an Insider, the Impact of the 2000 Maine Elections. The luncheon will be at DeMillo's Floating Restaurant and registration is required. The fee is $15 for Maine Heritage Policy Center members and $20 for non-members. For more information, go to mainepolicy.org. Last Wednesday, the Portland Jetport held a topping out ceremony for the new terminal. The project is part of a $75 million airport expansion, the most ambitious in the airport's history and the largest construction project currently underway in Maine. It will nearly double the size of the terminal, adding 137,000 square feet, including 3 new gates, and allow the terminal to handle an expected increase in passengers. The ceremony, attended by airport and city officials, marked the placing of the final support beam at the top of the new structure. Airport Director Paul Bradbury spoke about the progress since the groundbreaking.
It was only 7 short months ago that we were here for a groundbreaking. Isn't this incredible? I mean, yeah. Look up, can you believe it? Beams in place, we're putting the final beam in place today. I think you'll agree the progress has just been simply incredible on this project. This project will allow the Jetport to meet the needs of the air travelers and visitors and residents of Portland, the region, and the state of Maine now and into the future.
Mayor Mavadonis then talked about the economic impact the airport has on Portland.
Already the Jetport creates a total benefit of $868 million for the region and supports 11,500 jobs. Visitors to Maine that land in our Jetport spend upwards of $400 million annually. The opportunity we have before us to increase these numbers and bring more people to Maine at the completion of this project is undeniable.
In keeping with tradition, the beam was signed by city officials, Jetport staff, and project construction workers before being lifted into position by a crane. A small evergreen was placed on the beam to symbolize growth and bring good luck to the project. A federal grant and a $4.50 ticket fee is paying for most of the work. The expansion is providing about 90 construction jobs for 22 months, and the terminal should be open for business next fall.
The University of Southern Maine is accepting submissions of prose, poetry, and artwork for the April 2011 issue of Words and Images, the annual journal of arts and literature. Authors and artists have until December 31st to send in their work. According to USM, the journal upholds a tradition of publishing the finest in literary arts from within the Southern Maine community. For additional fee, artists can be entered in separate poetry and book arts contests. For a complete list of submission guidelines, visit Facebook and go to Words and Images 2011.
Cumberland County was born on November 1st, 1760, and recently held its 250th birthday celebration at the county courthouse. Bill Blood was at the Big Bash.
On November 30th, Cumberland and Lincoln County celebrated their 250th anniversary. 250 years ago, Cumberland and Lincoln County were established as individual counties on November 1st, 1760. Commissioners, representatives of elected officials, and historians spoke about the significance of this event and congratulated the counties for their 250 years of success. Cumberland County Commissioner Richard Feeney opened the ceremony with brief comments.
When you put it in perspective and you look, 1760, it doesn't mean much, but when you consider 1760, 1776, that gives you a little idea of how long ago it was. This all happened before the Revolutionary War, before we gained our independence from Great Britain. It happened before the War of 1812. It happened even before the expansion to the west, which was first navigated by Lewis and Clark. Little was known about counties in those days, and primarily one of the reasons why they were formed was so that the sheriff would have some authority in dealing with the bad guys. And this was not the sheriff in Nottingham, by the way. So I will conclude my opening comments because there are people that are here that are better historians than I who could give you what the history is and how it all came about. So again, I thank you all for coming and being with us today.
Several representatives of Maine's elected officials spoke in their behalf. Jennifer Duddy represented Susan Collins.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Commissioner Shaughnessy, and thanks to Bill Whitten. My name is Jennifer Duddy, and I'm pleased to be here today on behalf of Senator Collins to read the following letter. Dear friends, I'm pleased to offer my congratulations on the 250th anniversary of Cumberland and Lincoln counties. This combined celebration demonstrates the shared history of the two counties and their shared contributions to our state of Maine. Established as neighbors on November 1st, 1760, the two counties already had a long record of accomplishments. More than a century and a half earlier, it was here that our shipbuilding industry was born, that our first fishing villages prospered, and that our lumber set sail for markets around the world. Less than 2 decades later, it was here that brave patriots defied an empire and fought for freedom and independence. This region is defined not by natural resources, but by the people of energy, spirit, and determination.
Representing Olympia Snow was City Councilor Cheryl Lehman.
I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of U.S. Senator Olympia Snow, and she certainly brings her congratulations and greetings. On a personal note, I was reading the banner that was hung out on the side of the building that says, Cumberland County serving for 250 years. I stepped back and I said, that's totally amazing. There's somebody in Portland who has served longer than I have. I don't have a formal letter, but I know county government, I know what they do, I know the services that they provide, so does the senator, and we truly appreciate most sincerely what you do and what you will continue to do in the future with regards to supporting county government here, both in Cumberland County and Lincoln. So again, my most sincere congratulations and best wishes from Senator Olympia Snow.
Next, Skeet Frazee spoke for Shelley Pingree.
To the Commissioners of Cumberland County and assembled guests, I regret that the urgency of the legislation before us in Washington has kept me from joining you today. However, I am so pleased to have this opportunity to add my voice to the chorus of congratulations and the spirit of celebration as you mark 250 years of Cumberland County. When Lincoln and Cumberland counties were carved out of York County back in 1760, our predecessors could not have imagined this vibrant hub for our courts and public safety. So much of what people know and love about this state exists here in Maine's most populous county. From the seacoast to Sebago Lake, from Portland's Old Port to Freeport's destination shopping, from Arts District to fishing, hunting, and skiing destinations. It is definitely the way life should be. My political career brings me in contact with people from all over the country and around the globe. It is always with pride that I identify as a part-time resident and homeowner in Cumberland County, a region with so much to offer, so many things to be proud of, and such a bright future. All the best, Shelley Pingree. Thank you again.
Proclamations from Governor Baldacci and the state representatives were read by former Commissioner Esther Glennet and Lincoln County Commissioner Bill Blodgett. Next, County Manager Peter Creighton spoke about the roles of county government, quoting words of President Lincoln speaking to Congress.
And I'm going to leave you with some words that my favorite president, Abraham Lincoln, said in speaking to Congress at a time when this country really was at a very critical point in our history. And he spoke of these words. He said, the question is, can we do better? And then he said, the dogmas of the past are inadequate to meet the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we need to rise to meet the occasion. And he said, our case is new, and we need to think anew and act anew. And as a county government, that's what we're trying to do. And we, not perfect, we may not always carry out those principles the way we would like, but that is our goal. And in the time that we're in now, in this 250 year, with the passage of the charter and with the work that we're doing with the municipalities, the community development program, and all the other things we're doing, I would like to think that we are trying to think anew and act anew, and that we're contributing to the citizens of Cumberland County. And we appreciate your presence here. I certainly do very much. Thank you for being here.
John O'Connell, Administrator of Lincoln County, Jay Robbins from the Lincoln County Historical Association, and historian Herb Adams addressed the guests and gave a history of both counties. This was followed by a presentation of a historical map of the county donated by Louise Marcotte. The entire presentation will be aired on Channel 5 starting Tuesday at 9 a.m. and will be rebroadcasted on Thursday at 9 p.m., Saturday at 11 a.m., and the following Monday at 3 p.m. You can also view this program on our website, www.ctn5.org. At the Cumberland County Courthouse Rotunda, I'm Bill Blood reporting for Community Update.
Last week, the new Cumberland County Delegation held their first meeting. 18 attendees discussed items ranging from jail consolidation to funding assistance for USM to whether towns should be allowed to use LEDs for streetlights. The long list of action items for the delegation will be refined in future meetings. The delegation consists of all 45 members of the state legislature from Cumberland County, as well as other interested parties. Their goal is to work together on legislative issues for the overall betterment of the county. On December 1st, the City of Portland began installing new technology to assist the sight-impaired and other pedestrians at two busy intersections in Portland. Director of Public Services Mike Babinski showed Brian Knobloch how the new system works.
Mike, tell us about this new pedestrian traffic system.
We're really excited about this new equipment that's just recently been installed. What it is doing is recording images of pedestrians, or at least detecting pedestrians at this particular intersection. We're at Deering and Park Avenue. And the opportunity is really to collect data for the next 6 months to ensure that we're getting good time of day counts and peak counts of when our pedestrians are walking at this very busy location. And then the next step will be to actually be able to activate the pedestrian cycle either by an accessible tone and or automatically going into the pedestrian cycle.
And when you say activate a cycle, you mean put on the walk or don't walk signal?
It'll put on the walk or don't walk cycle, that's right. So this equipment works very similar to the vehicle detection systems that we have in our intersections today at most of our major intersections, where they detect when an automobile approaches an intersection. This now will detect when a pedestrian approaches, and then automatically can either, like I say, either goes into the automatic cycle or it directs the pedestrian to push the button so that it goes into it. This will be especially helpful for sight impaired individuals that need to make sure that they know exactly where to activate the pedestrian cycle, making these intersections that much more safer in our city.
So sort of walk us through it as you were. Somebody approaches the intersection to the crosswalk. What happens?
Well, once they walk through it, the cameras that are mounted above the actual intersection will actually detect that there's someone there. And what it will do is either signal a tone that says push here to activate the cycle, or it will be programmed to automatically go into the cycle once it's safe to do that and once the vehicles have gone through their normal cycle. So it's a combination of options, and the city and my staff and I will have an opportunity to make that decision once we're through with the research.
And this is being paid for by a federal grant, right? Could you talk about that?
It is being paid for by the Federal Highway Administration. It's being administered locally through MDOT, Maine Department of Transportation. Portland was one of, I think, 6 or 7 communities in the United States selected to try this equipment out. We're known as a walkable community. We've taken the lead in lots of different areas with respect to accessibility, and they talked to myself and our staff and asked if we would be interested in trying this equipment out. We certainly were, and we have 2 intersections actually where this equipment is installed, Deering and Park, and also at Franklin and Commercial Street. And it is in fact being funded by a demonstration grant through FHWA, I think their Intelligent Pedestrian and Safety Systems program.
Now you said these systems have cameras, but they're not cameras in the sense that they're not going to be recording images of people, right?
That's correct. They're not recording individuals, they're just recording motion, and they're detecting the fact that there's someone in the either the curb ramp or near the crosswalk ready to walk across. That's right.
And when the test is over, we get to keep the equipment, is that right?
It's one of the benefits of being the guinea pigs, I guess, is that my staff and our department will be able to keep the equipment indefinitely, and it's possible that this can be replicated in other parts of the city as well. So yes, we'll have access to the equipment once the demonstration is done.
That's it for this edition of Community Update. I'm Beth Allen.
And I'm Tom Handel. Be sure to join us every week for a new show on your local community television station, CTN 5.
And if you'd like to have news about your organization covered on this program, please contact us at 775-2900 or visit ctn5.org to find out how to become a member.
Thanks for watching, and please get involved in your community.